Hello. Today we're going to start Chapter 6, Section 3, Fractions and Decimals on a Number Line, Day 1. We're going to start with graphing some fractions on the number line and its opposite. So one thing about the number lines, I've made them very easy for you to begin with. So remember that if we're talking about putting 3/4 on the number line, that means the number line is cut up into fourths. So between 0 and 1, there should be 4 tick marks. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and then 4/4. 4/4 is the same as 1 whole. So between any two whole numbers, between 0 and 1, or between 0 and -1, or between 1 and 2, there's going to be 4 tick marks, each divided into fourths. So to graph 3/4 on the number line, we're going to go to 3/4. Its opposite would be a -3/4. I'll just go ahead and label those. On the second one, now we're doing fifths. So you'll see 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and then 5/5 is 1 whole. So now it's divided into fifths on the number line. So to graph -4/5, and its opposite would be a +4/5. Okay. Same thing with decimals. We have a -1.6. So this number line is going by 4/10. Okay. So you'll see 4/10, 8/10, 1 and 2/10, 1 and 6/10. Okay. So we have a -1.6 or -1 and 6/10, and its opposite would be a +1 and 6/10. Number 4 is 2 and 1/2. I see 1, I see 2. In between 2 and 3 would be 2 1/2, and the opposite would be a -2 and 1/2. Now we're going to start comparing. Again, when we compare, we use less than, greater than, equal to. So if I want to compare a -1/4 to a -3/4, this is much like the first section that we talked about. The number to the left is always less. So -3/4 is further to the left, so it is less. So it's going to be -3/4 is less than, I guess we don't have a spot for that, is less than -1/4. Then it says to find a fraction that is between the two numbers. So what is between the two numbers would be right here, -2/4 or -1/2. Okay. Alrighty, let's look at the next one. We're going to compare a -4 2/3 and a -4 1/6. So let's find -4 2/3 and a -4 1/6. So all of these are out of sixths. So you have to convert this out of 6 times 2 times 2. So this is going to be a -4 4/6. Okay. So this is the same as -4 2/3, because if you were to simplify 4/6, you're going to get 2/3. Okay, find a fraction that is between the two numbers. We can say -4 3/6, which is a half, or we could say -4 2/6, which is 1/3 if you simplify. So both of those are between the two fractions. Same thing with decimals. Compare a -3 8/100 compared to a -3 8/10. -3.8 is over here. Negative 3.08, guys. 0.8, that's less than negative 3.1. So here's negative 3, here's negative 3.1, which you could say the same as 0.10. So negative 3.08 is going to be over here. Okay. So find it should say decimal. That is between the two. Just choose one. I'm going to go kind of right in the middle, negative 3.5. Okay. On the bottom section, place less than, greater than, or equal to sign in the blank. Hint, the sign is the opposite if you're working with negative numbers. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Remember, the number to the left is always less. So when we're just working with these integers, we know that negative 5 is further to the left. Okay? I've got a trick for you. When you're comparing fractions, trick, do cross products. 9 times a negative 1 is negative 9. 7 times a negative 2 is negative 14. Now, those are easy to visualize on the number line. Negative 14 is further to the left, so it would be less. So do cross products, okay? And if they're both negatives, your integers are going to be negatives, okay? Negative 5/10 compared to negative 3/10, okay? When you're doing decimals, I think it's easier to round. If you had a negative 0.5, that could round to a negative 1. Negative 0.3 would round down to 0. Okay. Here you are comparing a mixed number and a whole number. So negative 1 2/3 is further to the left, right? You could round that up to a negative 2 compared to a negative 1. It's further to the left. Same thing here. Negative 2 is further to the left than negative 1. Okay, let's look over here. Again, we've got fractions, do cross products. 6 times a negative 2, negative 12. 3 times a negative 5, negative 15. Which is furthest to the left? The negative 15 is. Okay, let's look at the next one. 6 times a negative 2, negative 12, 5 times a negative 5, negative 25, which is furthest to the left, negative 25. Okay, think about rounding for your decimals. I would round negative 0.2 to 0. I would round a negative 0.8 to the next integer, negative 1. So negative 1 is further to the left. This one has a negative 1. This one has a negative 1. Let's ignore those negative 1s and let's just do cross products. 6 times a negative 1 is negative 6. 4 times a negative 5 is negative 20. Negative 20 is furthest to the left. And on the last one, this one doesn't have a whole number. This one has a whole number, negative 1 and 5, 6. So that would almost round up to negative 2. It is furthest to the left. The number on the left is always less. Okay. Alrighty, guys, go ahead and look into Canvas and see what else we're doing today.